All right, today is Friday, June 1, 2018. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes CSI implementation group. Let's go through the agenda. So first up are PRs that need attention. First on the list is a PR that Sergey's been working on for adding the CSI driver registration with plugin watcher. So as many of you know, we are trying to integrate with a standard Cubelet plugin registration mechanism. That mechanism, the PR enabling it, merged earlier this week, large part thanks to Vlad and Sergey. And now Sergey is writing code to integrate CSI with that driver registration code. So he's got a PR out. I took a brief look at it yesterday, and Sergey and I talked about it. Looks like it's ready for another review. I'm going to take another look at it after this meeting. Anything else you want to add, Sergey?
Well, just a little note. The more I look at the plugin watcher, more questions I have. So I think, that was just the very first step in the plugin watcher bits, because there are multiple things which are not addressed at all in that area.
Okay.
I put together some to-dos in my PR as a comments, like not to lose track of those. And
would you be willing to open up issues for those to make sure that they don't get lost?
Yes, I will definitely. But first, I'd like you guys to check. If it makes sense. Maybe it's not a problem. Maybe it's the problem only in my mind.
Let's see here. So you've got one here that is right now the driver registration only registers drivers. Not clear how it deregisters drivers. The driver when CSI is terminated. That is a good point.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no like heartbeat or anything that we do. So the assumption is that you register one and then it's there forever.
It won't work that way, because basically the socket breaks the restart of the container. Like when I once forgot to remove the socket, I got my driver register in the crash loop.
Yeah.
So this is not straightforward.
Why did the driver registrar go to crash loop?
It was saying that the socket is in use and that's it.
Right. So you have to clean up your socket file.
Okay. So maybe we should have driver registrar try and do that cleanup if it finds a dirty socket there.
Yeah, I could do it either as a part of the on termination. There is a hook to clean to do some action when the port goes down, or I could do like a pre-go, like if I go to the listen, so I will clean it before going to the listen, net listen. So one way or
so regardless, I think this is a real issue. So feel free to open an issue for this.
And the second
one is check for plugin watcher behavior on Cubelet restart. CSI would require replaying registrations for all existing sockets. Possible issue is that when Cubelet is up and trying to replay the registrations, but the corresponding driver registrars are not yet up, should it keep retrying? So my understanding here is that the discovery mechanism is the existence of the Unix domain socket. So if Cubelet comes up and it's scans the directory, doesn't find a Unix domain socket, it says okay, no registration. But if at a later point the driver comes up and drops the socket, as soon as the socket is dropped, that should be an alert to the watcher that hey, this new socket is here and I need to probe it and register it.
Well, here's the problem. Let's say if it reacts only on add of the new socket, then on the Cubelet restart, so the sockets are there, but those are the driver registrar sockets, not the CSI driver sockets. So we have to go to the re-registration process again to learn what are the CSI driver sockets.
Right. I think that's fair. So we open a bug for that. The plugin watcher should on startup, scan the directory and register everything that exists in the directory. And then after that, anything that gets added, it will register. So on startup, it should definitely register everything.
Okay. Okay, then I'll do.
Both good points.
Just a quick question. Doesn't the driver register not do anything today when the thing is removed? So the mapping thing on the node's still there, like it's left hanging.
What mapping thing?
You mean the annotations?
The annotation, yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah. Basically, there's no good cleanup done by the driver registrar today. So that's. Okay. I think it's a valid point. We need to consider cleanup both on the Cubelet side and on the driver side.
So
I don't know. Go ahead.
No, what I was going back to the point that Sergey was making. According to the code, the scanner, as soon as the Cubelet comes up, the scanner starts. So, and it's supposedly any files, any socket files that are still left in the directory should be rescanned.
You know, I tried to restart, but what I didn't see, they react on event generated by, I think it's iNotify or FS-Notify, some software.
Oh, that's right. You know what?
They react on create and on delete.
You're right. They did change it. Because before it was just a plain scan, but I think they did. I think it's called iNotify or something.
Yeah,
like
iNotify, exactly.
Yep. And okay.
So
yeah, it is. Yeah. So it's not a constant scanning. I thought it was a constant scanning.
This sounds to me like a very alpha feature.
Oh yeah, it is an alpha feature.
It is super alpha.
It will be flag gated and opt in. And one of the things that I asked Sergey to do here was actually the flag gate is not there. That's another problem I opened.
No, they added it. It got merged this morning.
Okay, perfect.
Because the other stuff seemed to have been like breaking. So.
Yeah, so that's good. And then what I asked Sergey to do was this new behavior of CSI using this mechanism should be only enabled if that flag gate is enabled. Otherwise, it should just use the existing behavior. That way, if anybody wants to test out and try the new stuff, they can opt into this behavior. Mm-hmm. And then this new code that Sergey is writing will take over, and it will decide where the Unix domain socket is and everything. And otherwise, we fall back to the existing behavior where we use the generated path.
You know, the funny thing is, a lot also mentioned that, and I addressed it in the in tree. Yep. But how can we do it for a driver registrar? Because it has no clue whether the kubelet has a gate enabled or not enabled for plugin watcher.
Driver registrar, we cannot do it. The only thing we can do with driver registrar is always drop the socket, the registration socket. The driver registrar has to drop the registration socket. Driver drops the real socket. So you end up with two sockets. The old Kubernetes code is going to use only the driver socket directly, and that's going to behave as is. The new code is going to talk to the driver registrar. I think the question then becomes
who marks the node?
Right.
We can add command line arguments to the driver registrar to act differently in behavior.
That's a good point.
So we just make it it's quite easy to do that. We're in control of it. So.
Okay. Yeah. If the keyword, the command line keyword is okay, then yeah, definitely we could do that.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. And then by default, it'll be the new behavior will be disabled. Mm-hmm. So you have to enable both the Kubernetes alpha flag and you have to enable the associated driver registrar flag to get the new behavior.
Yeah.
And then next quarter, we'll switch the behavior to say, this is moving to beta. It'll be default on and opt out.
And that needs to be added to a documentation page.
Yes. Okay, that's fair. Let's take that as items to do after this. Let's go back to here. And if we scroll down, tasks remaining. So we said we needed to add or update driver registrar with registration kubelet logic. Have this flag gated by a new flag on driver registrar. Document new behavior. Anything else we want to have under this Cubelet device plugin integration?
Is there any type of testing that we can do for it?
Man, no testing. The Monday's deadline. Come on.
I mean, the nice thing is that tests can always go in after the deadline. So,
yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. If it's in a separate PR, yes, definitely, but not in this one.
No, separate.
I agree.
In a way to, I don't even know how you can enable that feature gate.
So I think there is a way to set the enable a alpha feature for testing.
Yes.
In the end-to-end framework. So you just have to do that, and then we could basically do the same host path test that we have today. Run that, except ensure that the driver registrar has a flag that is enabling the driver registrar to handle this behavior, and then we'll have an end-to-end test for this. Okay, that looks good to me. So all three of these items can be done after code freeze, so we're good there. The current code that Sergey has, I'll take a look at that after this meeting, and hopefully we can get that merged by end of day today. And we're looking good on the device plugin integration work. So let's keep moving along. We have the repo reorganization work that Luis is leading. Luis, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, this is something that we may have to just kind of step back. This is one of the things that's happened is that, we started a project, we weren't at it, we went as fast as we could, and we got the job done, right? And I think Patrick has brought out a good point, and he said, okay, let's look at it. He's coming in from a different angle, right? He's seeing it now. And he brought up a good point where we should stop, just sit back and look at the whole view and realize what's happening. So one of the suggestions is that instead of having all these different repos, which makes it kind of complicated to be able to manage for me, for each one to tag and release and do all these things, we should then say, okay, this is what we've learned. Let's mature it and create one repo. We have packages for the libraries for each one, like the external attacher and so on. Then we have in the CMD directory, we could generate the programs. We tag the whole repo as one. In other words, we have one unified repo for all the sidecar containers, and that makes it simpler to handle, simpler to push, and simpler to manage. And just wanted to get your opinion, and I think Patrick's online too. So
yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was just wondering, from coming to the project anew, whether the decision to have these different repos, whether that was a conscious choice made for, say, some fundamental reason, like one repo per component, or whether it was just accidental and just happened this way. But just as Luis said, I think it makes sense to reconsider that and pick the organization that works best for the people working on this. And we've had multiple cases now where the same change basically had to make four times pull requests, review, and all of that.
Yep.
One was the make file change, another is now the upcoming logging change. I think there is, and I expect more of the same thing to happen. I personally think that one repo would be the better choice.
Yeah, so to give history on why it was different repos was mostly velocity. It was unclear what components they were going to share, and it's much easier to have 3 different people working on 3 different components, all working in their own repo when you want to move very quickly. But I think the argument is fair that we've gotten to a point where we're a lot more stable now. And a lot of the work that we're doing, we're having to duplicate across these multiple repos. So it might be worth considering what we can do to improve the workflow here. and consuming it for an end user. One of the problems with coupling everything together is that then you couple the releases for these different components together. And if you have a bug in one, you necessarily have to update everything. So that's a drawback. I think it's fair to say that common code should live in a common place and not be duplicated in multiple places. Have we considered what the common code is and if there's a way that we can factor that out into a common repo?
Yeah, I mean, that's possible, but then that adds one more repo we have to tag and release.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like I completely understand the if there's a bug we release, but I think that's okay. In just taking Kubernetes as an example, and I know they're pushing a lot of stuff out, but Kubernetes puts out quite a few containers, for example. And then when we talk about 10.1.10, we know what we mean. When we say 1.10.2, we know this is the entire stack of 1.10.2. And I think we should say the same thing with Kubernetes CSI sidecar containers. This is the 10.1, whatever X version, and that means the entire stack of sidecar containers. And I just think that, well, I'm kind of, from my own personal experience, it's very difficult to do the same thing over and over and over again for each one of the repos. So.
Yeah, I agree. I've gone through that now with a makefile change, and it's just tedious. It's actually slowing us down, because then multiple people need to get involved reviewing the same thing also multiple times.
Yeah. Now I would have to say this: the drivers repos should still be separate. Now the drivers repos could pull in code from this big repo, from libraries or something that we provide, and they could pull it in because those are live, maintained libraries. But the drivers should be by themselves still.
Yeah. So I would draw the line based on the organization. Who is actually working on the code? And following that logic, we end up with basically the sidecar containers, host path, and some common code, which is currently CSI common in one repo, one source code base that gets maintained by the CSI people. And that's also something that typically needs to be tested together. So once we look at integration testing, it also becomes a bit easier to have those all in the same repository. And the drivers, they are the production drivers for, say, iSCSI or whatever else we have. Those are different people. Both go into different repositories. So the overall goal.
I have a question. So you were talking about the host path driver also in this repo. So what about? I thought there were other drivers you were talking about. Were put under the Kubernetes CSI, Kubernetes CSI drivers location, right? What about all the other drivers also under Kubernetes CSI?
I would put the other drivers, even if they aren't the same Kubernetes CSI organization, I would put those into a different repository, because they are a bit more separate. The host path driver is special in the sense that it is the example and test driver that the other sidecar containers get tested with. And that's the reason, that's the special role of that one driver, but that argument only applies to the host path driver.
I completely agree with that. Just as another example, CSI test, the CSI Sanity repo has a mock in-memory driver that has init, right? And they cook together, and it's a separate one used for testing. And
so would you also propose pulling CSI test into this as well?
No. CSI test is fine by itself.
Okay, so the proposal here is sidecar containers plus host path driver.
Yeah.
I think that seems reasonable. Does anybody else have any opinion on it?
No, it's fine. It's just so since I'm working on the snapshots, it's going to be dependent on this change. So if you made the change, then,
let's not do it this quarter. Let's plan for it next quarter. That way we don't disrupt everything that's going on and trying to land right now. But I think before
next quarter, you mean the
1.11.
1.12?
1.12.
1 to 12, yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's actually happening soon, right? Because when is that the?
Yeah, it's like 1 month away.
1.11. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So because I'm actually right now coding right now. So what should I?
Where are you coding on?
Right now it's just right now. Of course, I was assuming that everything's separate. So I'm having my own external snapshotter. So everything. So that's why I want you. I want to know.
Is it a Sci container you're working on?
Yeah, it's going to be a set. Yeah, so it's going to be very similar to the external attacher external.
Oh, that's okay. Right? Okay, good. Okay.
So that's why I want to ask if this change is going to happen. Then I will be making my change based on this new repo. Otherwise, I'll be.
So either I can.
I think we can keep the current drivers repository as the common base that we all start on, and just renaming. I think that was part of the current plan anyway already. Get rid of the drivers that we don't want to have in drivers.
No, she's not.
No, I'm not talking about driver. I'm talking about sidecar container.
Yes,
I think.
Okay, and the sidecar. I would then add the sidecar containers to what's currently the drivers repository, and then we can rename it to some to be decided name, and that's then the big repository.
Yeah, I mean that's one way, but let me there's a couple of ways of doing this. We can either do it ASAP, right? And then I can create the repo, and then we can go from there, or we can wait completely. That's up to you guys.
I'd say let's wait at least a couple weeks and maybe do it the last week of June. And that way it's right before the next cycle. I want to minimize the disruption to this release by throwing this thing in, which is a nice to have, but not necessary for the release.
What I can do is I can create the repo on the side. It won't affect anyone. I won't mess with anything that we have today.
Once it's ready.
And once it's ready, we just make the switch.
Okay, that seems like a reasonable approach.
And that way, Jing, you can start watching that and you see what it's like.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so actually that'd be good because I was assuming that a lot of things that can be shared, for example, the vendor location, right, probably will be a lot of common things. Exactly. Right now, for me, that's it's a little challenging for me right now because I also need to, there are some redundancy. Other than that, I also need to be dependent on some code that is not merged yet. This is from my side. This is from the snapshot side.
So Patrick and I, if you don't mind helping me, you and I can create this new repo area. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I already started thinking about how to do it, and personally I'm a big fan of keeping as much Git history as possible.
Yes.
Because I actually at least look at Git claim output or Git log output and try to figure out who wrote this code. So the less of that information we lose in the transition, the better. And I'm fairly familiar with Git, so I could even prepare the repo if you want, and then we can compare among ourselves whether it's suitable and proceed from there. I can do that next Monday.
Yeah, we'll talk through Slack or whatever, and then we'll just create a design for the repo, and then we'll go forward. The details, if you want to be a Git expert on it, go for it. I got 3 repos how to pull into one.
Yeah, so you can probably create one folder for the snapshot as well. So when you are creating.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking about, a package, and then like attacher, provisioner, snapshotter, things like that.
Awesome. When you guys have something, run the directory structure by this group just to make sure that everybody's on board.
Yeah.
Before we proceed.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right, cool. This I think it's a good idea. Thanks for bringing it up. We've got 3 minutes left. Let's try to accelerate a little bit. We're probably going to go over time. Add a task for updating all docs. I imagine this hasn't been updated.
No, I just added that today.
Okay.
So we don't have a task for doing that.
Add a task for updating all docs for 111 and remove the bullets just below. Okay.
Yeah, because we're so close to the end that doesn't matter anymore.
Okay. So actually, we should just move this to or have a documentation task here. Update internal documentation for 1.11. And then P0 update external Kubernetes documentation. 111. Who wants to work on documentation?
That's me for sure.
Okay. Release.
And of course, any volunteers I would love, but I'm definitely going to go through every page because it's getting kind of old and stale right now.
Right, and there's been a lot of changes that went in.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we can stop tracking this and
yeah.
Okay. We'll just drop it next time. Adding CSI volume struct to volume in pod spec.
You can skip that. You said you decided last time that purposely it was not going to happen.
Okay.
You can just remove all that.
Cool. 3.10 cherry picks. I went through these yesterday and approved them. They should be getting merged. If they are not, I need to poke somebody. I think the one, yeah, there we go. It got merged. Look at this. It's still open, and then the third one's already merged, so we're almost there. Bugs, entry CSI, leaking gRPC connections. There was a PR that was sent out for this by Vlad. I took a look at it. I had some minor feedback. Vlad is awesome and addressed all of it, and I just approved it right before this meeting. Does this need to be rebased?
Shouldn't be.
Oh, no, it looks good. Okay.
Yeah.
That gray icon threw me off.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've been struggling with getting it, those flaky tests to pass.
Okay, so fingers crossed, hopefully that merges. I'll take another look at it to make sure that, actually, let me just do that right now. Make sure it has the correct set of labels on there for merging. You need to have the 1.11 tag and approved for milestone, and yeah, should be good to merge. Cool. You can keep track of that in the merge queue. Shabaik Shah was working on a couple of bugs. The first one was apparently already done. The second one was a working proposal, which Jan was helping review. Looks like he's asking for some tests, so hopefully Shabaik Shah has time to update that. I don't think she's on the call today. Okay. And then for the tasks, updating documentation, we added that. Block volume support, Vlad, I'm sorry I didn't get to take a look at the refactor code. I'm planning to do that right after this meeting.
Okay.
And then how are the code changes that are building on top of this doing?
They're there. I have them locally. Actually, I have them on a branch on my own, but
okay.
It's
So
there.
as soon as refactor goes out, you should be ready with this one. All right, so I'll keep an eye out for this one. If we can get this one merged and this one, like at least decent amount of review on it today, I think we'll be in.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'd like to get to for today.
Okay, so I'll try to prioritize taking a look at those today.
Mm-hmm.
Topology support in CSI, this merged, so woo.
Nice.
The release is being cut 0.3 on Monday at 12 o'clock. So one more item that we have is update Kubernetes internal to pick up 0.3 release. Who wants to do that? This is going to be time critical because the release comes out at 12 o'clock Pacific time, and then 6 p.m. Pacific time is the freeze. So basically it needs to be ready within that period. Anybody interested in doing that?
And is that just basically?
Yeah, the dependency change.
Right. It's a dependency change.
Oh, right. The dependency change. Okay.
I mean, I could do it. I did it last time, so I mean, at least I know the place where it's sits.
All right. Good.
Cool. Thanks, Sergey.
Yeah. If you need backup, let me know, Sergey.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, and then the second part of this is updating the Kubernetes sidecar containers to pick up 0.3. Anybody interested in helping with that? This does not have as tight of a deadline because we can do it after code freeze. Anyone interested in doing any 1 or 3 of these sidecar containers? Okay, we'll leave that unassigned for now.
We could come back to that. I'll probably
yeah, we can come back to that.
Yeah.
And then the last part of this will be updating the CSI drivers, and we can assign these later. So this will be P0, this will be P1, this will be P2. All right, so that's good. Block we talked about. Topology, as I said, went in, and then 0.3 will be available on Monday. We're not going to do the wiring between Kubernetes and topology this quarter. We're going to do that next quarter. That's this item, Kubernetes CSI implementation of topology.
Is there a design doc for that?
There is a design doc for it. I can ask Cheng to share it. I don't believe Cheng is on the call.
Okay.
Cheng, can you share the design doc for this with the group?
So we're not going to do it for P. It's not going to be P0.
It was a P0, but we realized that there's too many moving components and we just can't get it done because the CSI parts had to land, the Kubernetes parts had to land, and then this is the code that's bridging that. So the CSI part has landed. The Kubernetes part should land soon. Michelle has the PRs out for that. They're expected to go in, but we just couldn't make the deadlines work. Also getting like this bridging code in at the same time. Okay. So we'll just do the bridging code next quarter. Cubelet device plugin registry integration. This was the work that Vlad and Sergey are working on right now. The outstanding component is the CSI part for this, and then a handful of tasks that can go in after code freeze. So we're looking very good there. And then the rest of these, I'm not too worried.
Saad, just a quick note. I mean, we kind of removed the labeling thing since we thought that maybe it won't be implemented, but labeling is the part of the PR. So basically, if you merge this PR that I'm working on, we'll have a labeling at the same time.
Nice. That is awesome. So that means that this task that we were considering red for the quarter, we might be able to get in this quarter as well.
Yep.
That is very, very good to hear.
And definite kudos to Sergey for jumping on this, and he's been doing a bang-up job getting this done.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sergey. So I'll take a look at that PR after this, and then we'll go from there. So if we can get all the big PRs basically in a good place by the end of the day, ideally LGTM'd and approved, then I think we're in a very good position.
Yep.
Would you guys be interested in having a meeting on Monday since it's code freeze day just to sync up?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
I'll be available.
Yeah, same here.
All right, cool. I'll send one off for Monday next week, and then we can resume the regular Tuesday, Wednesday after that.
Yeah,
or Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday.
I may have a doctor's appointment, but I don't know yet.
Okay, no worries.
Also,
sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick thing. Patrick is still there. At the top of our repo discussion, I put a doc link. So, and I also put it on the.
You sound really far, Louis.
Oh, sorry about that. My mic was up. Yeah, I just put a doc up there, and just so we can get started.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. All right, thank you, everyone, and have a good rest of your Friday and a good weekend.
Yeah, you too, guys. Take care.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.